Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in New Delhi for talks with India's leaders on bilateral relations besides regional and global issues. Ukraine summit strives for consensus, but way forward is uncertain after India and much of the global south do not support a joint communique. A daily pause in fighting to allow aid into Gaza triggers a spat between Israel's Prime Minister and the army, even as military operations continue in Rafah. And President Draupadi Murmu of India leads the nation in greeting people on the festival of Eid-ul-Adha. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is visiting New Delhi on Monday for talks with the country's leadership at the start of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's third term in office. It will be the first trip to India by a senior US government official after Prime Minister Modi came to power for a third term. Sullivan will take part in a second meeting of the Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies. He will meet his Indian counterpart Ajit Doval. This meeting will be followed by a joint statement between the two nations underscoring the progress made on and the importance of the Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies. Earlier on the 6th of June, US President Joe Biden and Prime Minister Narendra Modi had discussed Sullivan's upcoming visit to New Delhi during a call made by President Biden to congratulate Prime Minister Modi on his electoral win. And joining me is a very special guest. Mr. Anil Trigunayat is with us. He's a former Indian ambassador to Jordan, Libya and Malta. Ambassador, welcome to DD India News Hour. Now, I have 4 or 5 fundamental questions to ask of you on this particular visit. First, would you say that this visit would be high on both symbolism and substance alike? Symbolism, because this is the first high-level visit from the US in Modi 3.0, barely a week or just a little more than a week since Prime Minister Modi's inauguration. And 2, it will be high on substance as well, isn't it?
Yes, you are absolutely right. It is a substantive visit, I must say, and it has been planned for some time. It was supposed to be held in February last, but due to, I think, scheduling problems, it did not happen. An ICT initiative is an extremely important initiative for India because critical technologies and emerging technologies are extremely important as the world moves for the techno-diplomacy, I would say, or geo-technological contestation. And so therefore, United States in that sense, with its global comprehensive strategic partnership, is an important partner for us. And they treat India as a special country with regard to the transfer of technologies. And we have seen some of these have already been, much work is being done on these others, whether it was the engine or some others. But what is there, this is also, there happens to be the first visit by a foreign dignitary to India after Prime Minister Modi, NSA and NSA Mr. Ajit Doval and Dr. Jaishankar have taken over third time. So that is also very significant, which indicates the continuity of India's strong relationship and bilateral partnership with the United States, even though we differ on certain dimensions and certain aspects as far as the global geopolitics and various other issues are concerned, in which Russia-Ukraine war, Israel-Hamas war, those are all very important issues. And India, of course, during these meetings, as we know, he is going to call on the Prime Minister also while having discussions with NSA and EM. I'm quite sure that all these issues will be discussed. We just had the meeting in Switzerland, where India abstained on the signing of the joint communique, for the simple reason that the two parties need to be there. I mean, all stakeholders must be present. That has been our fundamental position from the very beginning, but it was good time to understand. And I'm quite sure, since Kurt Campbell is also apparently accompanying him, they will be briefing India on way forward, because USA is also stuck in Israel at the moment, in the Israel-Hamas war. It is also trying very hard to get going, things moving, but to what extent can it go, and how India and US can work together. As far as Russia-Ukraine partnership is concerned, we have heard our representative was there, Mr. Ambassador Pawan Kapoor, and he had very clearly mentioned India's position, that we came here to understand what are the others talking about, at the same time how these can be leveraged for bringing about peace in the region. So these are important. This visit and this meeting is taking place in a very important geopolitical, geostrategic context, and the contestations that are taking place around the world.
Indeed, thank you for that comprehensive overview, Ambassador Regonayat. You touched upon a number of issues, including the initiative on critical and emerging technologies and other regional and global issues. We'll come to that in just a bit. Let's talk a bit, if you will, at some length on the ICET. How would you assess year one of ICET in terms of technology partnership or collaboration areas such as artificial intelligence or semiconductors?
You know, recently, just a few days back, Prime Minister was in Italy, and in the outreach summit, artificial intelligence and the technologies were a major discussion point. And as you know, that artificial intelligence, quantum technologies and computing are all going to be the very defining features of the future. And therefore, it is important that a certain kind of regulatory mechanisms are introduced, which should be universal and not really be dictated to the rest of the world. It shouldn't happen like earlier cases we have seen. So that's why India, as you know, believes, Prime Minister Modi also said that AI for all. So that is what is India's approach, and not as by some other countries who might try to have AI only for subjugation others, or to control the technology this way. India has the technological heft, and therefore it is in a greater position to talk about it. So I think that on this particular issue, we both can work together, being the democracies and wanting the welfare of the world.
Ambassador, I have time enough for two more quick questions to you. One, your thoughts on the way defense ties have shaped up of late between India and the US, especially in light of the initiative on critical and emerging technologies, be it transfer of technology, co-development, co-production, number one. And number two, in the regional context, because you mentioned Kurt Campbell's visit as well, along with Sullivan's, and he has been the Indo-Pacific czar of sorts for the US. How would you reckon the discussions would be on the Indo-Pacific, which could be a code for China as well?
Well, I think that USA has emerged as one of the leading defense partners, and they are also now interested in working with India in the Make in India program, and that has been there. But as you know, most of the defense deals and the defense technology transfers do take time, and but as the Americans themselves say, that the trust is there with India, and they are also very keen on India becoming an alternate value and supply chain partner, a credible value and supply chain partner, which has been seen in our Quad statements and what we are doing with them in different areas. We have also signed all the foundational agreements, which have provided the requisite momentum, basically, for transfer of technology and for creating those kind of platforms that could be mutually workable and can be used. As far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned, it is somewhere we know that it is the Sino-US contestation, despite their efforts to play it down, remains the major problem for the United States. And we have seen it with China, the way it was discussed in the G7 summit recently, and the big focus was there. So although they don't want to play it up into the context of a greater war there, but they are prepared for it. And India is the very major, I would say, the pivot as far as the US's Indo-Pacific strategy is concerned.
Ambassador Regonayat, may I thank you for breaking it down for us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Right, moving on, a two-day meeting called the Summit on Peace in Ukraine concluded in Switzerland on Sunday. More than 90 countries signed a joint communique which lays out a possible roadmap for resolution of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But it lacks unanimity because it was agreed at a summit to which Russia was not invited. Amish Mahajan has more.
The Ukraine Peace Summit in Switzerland has successfully concluded with over 90 countries signing the final declaration. Swiss President Viola Amherd presented the key points of the communique, emphasizing the importance of the safe use of nuclear power, the protection of shipping navigation routes, and the return of unlawfully displaced children and detained civilians.
We have managed to agree on a common vision here on the Bürgenstock. We have set out that vision in the Bürgenstock communique. Herewith we are sending a clear signal to the people of Ukraine and to all those directly affected by the consequences of the war. A large part of the international community has the desire to bring change.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky praised the support from Western and other leaders at the summit, highlighting that this collective effort underscores the potential to restore the rule of international law.
That we can achieve results as soon as possible. And it is exactly these and other similar practical steps to restore security and peace that will prove to everyone in the world that the UN Charter can be restored to full effectiveness. All the principles and purposes of the UN Charter. Thank you very much. Slava Ukraini.
Meanwhile, Russia has expressed its willingness to engage in talks with Ukraine. However, it stressed the necessity of guarantees to ensure the credibility and seriousness of any forthcoming negotiations.
Putin is not rejecting anything. He's not rejecting the possibility of talks. He says there are legitimate bodies there in accordance with the country's constitution, who is authorized to conduct negotiations, etc. Negotiations, as a rule, are conducted by expert people, but the results of negotiations are recorded by legitimate. Agreements on paper are the fruit of very complex expert negotiations, a balance of interests, and of course, taking into account the realities on the ground. And this will be the case this time as well.
As the summit comes to an end, the international community remains hopeful that these declarations and commitments will pave the way for lasting peace and stability in the region. With Bureau Inputs, Amish Mahajan's report for DD India.
Let me now pull up some graphics on that very meeting for you. Now, India took part in the Switzerland-hosted Summit on Peace in Ukraine on the 15th and 16th of June. And Indian diplomat Pavan Kapoor represented India at the summit. India did not associate itself with a joint communique issued towards the end of the two-day talks. At the summit, India called for a peaceful resolution of the conflict through dialogue and diplomacy. India pitched for sincere and practical engagement between both the parties to the conflict, calling it essential for achieving a resolution. And last but not the least, India said it is committed to engaging with all stakeholders and both parties involved, contributing earnestly towards achieving an early and abiding peace. All right, moving on. European Union leaders are gathering for the first informal meeting in Brussels on Monday since the European Parliament election. Leaders will debate policy goals for the next 5 years, from defense to the economy. First, the leaders are to discuss who should be the next presidents of the European Commission and the European Council, as well as foreign policy chief. Germany's Ursula von der Leyen is in prime position to secure a second term as head of the EU executive, while former Portugal Prime Minister Alberto Costa is set to become the next president of the European Council. The leaders are due to confirm their choices at an EU summit on the 27th and 28th of June. EU leaders are also expected to discuss the next 5-year legislative cycle, with a stress on common values, defense and economic competitiveness. They are due to confirm their strategic agenda guidance at the June end summit. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Italy plans to build 20 small nuclear reactors in the UK. A wildfire in the US state of California forces the evacuation of more than 1,000 people. And France plans to protect children from too much screen time.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. To West Asia now, where Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday denounced military's plans to hold daily pauses in fighting along one of the main roads into Gaza to facilitate aid delivery into the enclave. The reaction from Netanyahu underlined political tensions over the issue of aid for Gaza, where international organizations have warned of a growing humanitarian crisis. Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir also denounced the idea of a tactical pause. He says that whoever decided it was a fool who should lose their job. The military had announced the daily pauses in the area from the Kerem Shalom crossing to the Salah al-Din road and then northwards. The military clarified that normal operations would continue in Rafah, which is its main focus in southern Gaza. 8 soldiers were killed on Saturday in this area. Now, as fighting in Gaza continued, conflict across the Israel-Lebanon border is now threatening to spiral into a wider war as near daily exchanges of fire between Israeli forces and the Hezbollah militia have escalated. A dense cloud of smoke was seen rising over the hilly frontier in southern Lebanon on Sunday. Last week, the Hezbollah launched the largest volley of rockets and drones yet in the 8 months it has been exchanging fire with the Israeli military in parallel to the Gaza war. The US and France are working on a negotiated settlement to the hostilities along Lebanon's southern border. Hezbollah said it will not halt fire unless Israel stops its military offensive on Gaza. For its part, an Israeli military official said Israel will take the necessary measures to protect its civilians until security along the country's border with Lebanon is restored. An advisor to the US president is traveling to Israel on Monday for meetings to avoid a further escalation along the blue line between Israel and Lebanon. Attacks between Israel and the Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon have led to worries of a deeper war across West Asia. Maritime tensions between China and the Philippines seem to be intensifying in the South China Sea. Only this time, China accused the Philippines of an intrusion. China's Coast Guard alleged on Monday that a Filipino ship illegally intruded into waters adjacent to the second Thomas Shoal in the South China Sea. The Filipino transport and replenishment ship allegedly ignored China's repeated warnings. The Chinese Coast Guard said that the vessel deliberately and dangerously approached a Chinese ship in an unprofessional manner, resulting in a collision. And DD India's Laura Westbrook has more from Hong Kong.
We've just heard reports today from China's Coast Guard that it says that it claims that a Philippine ship has bumped into it in these disputed waters in the South China Sea. Now, this comes after on Saturday, China's Coast Guard said that it's implemented these new rules that allows its Coast Guard to detain foreigners in the South China Sea. It says that foreign ships that illegally entered China's territorial waters and adjacent waters may be detained. And this also comes after the Philippines on Saturday submitted a legal filing to the United Nations for its own maritime entitlement to an extended continental shelf in the disputed waters. It also said the defense minister also says that they will be looking to take measures to protect the fishermen in the South China Sea. This is an extremely important waterway. Trillions of dollars of trade pass through it every year. It's also an extremely important fishing waterway as well. China claims almost all the South China Sea, but the Philippines and other countries also have these competing claims. And as we've seen in recent days and even in recent weeks, there has been this sort of escalating tension between these two sides, between the Philippines and China, with both sides being increasingly assertive in their claims in the South China Sea.
And in more news from the Indo-Pacific region, loudspeakers deployed by South Korea to wage a psychological warfare against North Korea faced audits and legal battles, claiming that they are too quiet. It has raised questions over how far into the reclusive North Korea their propaganda messages can blast. South Korea resumed loudspeaker broadcasts directed at North Korea on the 9th of June for the first time since a now-defunct inter-Korean agreement had banned them in 2018. The current speakers were among 40 systems purchased in 2016 after the two Koreas exchanged artillery fire in a 2015 dispute over the broadcasts. The military says that the systems were designed to blare pop music and political messages as far as 10 kilometers, but audits released at the time show the new speakers did not meet those standards and were not as powerful as the military called for. North Korea's own loudspeakers in the area further diminished the reach of South Korea's psychological warfare. North Korea's broadcasts are less aimed at winning over people in the South and more at suppressing the South's broadcasts by overpowering or muddling the message. And staying in the region, Thailand's courts will convene on a trio of politically charged cases this week, including dissolution of an opposition political party and one that could potentially lead to the Prime Minister's dismissal. It may all increase the prospect of more government instability in the Southeast Asian country. Now, the Constitutional Court in Thailand is set to begin its deliberation of the dissolution of the opposition Move Forward Party. The court agreed to take on the complaint filed by the Election Commission asking to disband Move Forward Party. It was alleged that the party ran a controversial campaign to reform a law that shields the country's monarchy from criticism. The case came after a January filing by the same court that found Move Forward's plan to amend the law was unconstitutional and tantamount to an attempt to overthrow the system of government with the king as head of state. Move Forward has rejected that. Move Forward pulled off a stunning feat in winning last year's election but was blocked from forming a government by lawmakers allied with the royalist military. It's the biggest party in the lower chamber of Thailand's legislature with about 30% of seats. Thailand's Attorney General will indict a former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra for allegedly insulting the monarchy. It appears to be a setback to a political heavyweight whose loyalists are currently in government. The complaint was lodged by the royalist military that ousted the government of his sister Yingluck Shinawatra. It had stemmed from an interview the influential tycoon gave to foreign media in 2015. 74-year-old Thaksin denies wrongdoing and has repeatedly pledged his loyalty to the crown. Thaksin would be the highest profile case among more than 270 prosecutions in recent years under the controversial law, which carries a maximum jail term of 15 years for each perceived insult of the royal family. Meanwhile, Thailand's Constitutional Court will also hear a case on Tuesday that could lead to the dismissal of Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin. It related to a cabinet appointment that is alleged to have violated the constitution. The case against Srettha was launched following a complaint by 40 military-appointed lawmakers in May, which was subsequently accepted by the Constitutional Court. Australia and China signed 5 pacts, including on trade, climate change and economy, on Monday during a visit by Chinese Premier Li Qiang to Canberra. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese gave a ceremonial welcome to Li, marked with a cannon salute followed by an inspection of the Guard of Honour. Li then signed the visitor's book. This is a first such visit by a Chinese premier to Australia in 7 years that marks a stabilization in relations between the US security ally and the world's second biggest economy. Meanwhile, protesters and supporters gathered outside the country's Parliament House in Canberra to protest against the Chinese Premier Li Qiang's visit. There was a heavy police deployment at the location. The protesters said that they were protesting against China's handling of issues such as human rights in Tibet and Xinjiang. An Italian nuclear energy firm is hoping to build 20 small reactors in the UK. The company Nucleo has signed a partnership to work on a so-called fourth-generation nuclear reactor in Italy. While countries such as France are trying to expand their already extensive nuclear power capacity, Italy is the only G7 member that does not have a single operational nuclear plant. Giles Gibson has more from Rome.
This is the Lakeside Research Centre where scientists are trying to push Italy back into the nuclear age. Private company Nucleo has partnered up with Enea, the Italian government's research agency, to develop smaller fourth-generation nuclear power plants. Instead of using water, the reactors are cooled with liquid lead, which researchers say is much more efficient.
Fourth-generation reactors have another objective: close the fuel cycle. That's why they changed from a water coolant to a liquid metal coolant, sodium or lead. And in this way you can use all the compressed fuel to make an entire reactor charge. It therefore becomes convenient because it doesn't waste fuel, but it reprocesses it and puts it back into circulation. So the goal of the fourth generation is this, while maintaining the safety standards of the third generation.
Italy started building nuclear power plants in the early 1960s, but after a couple of decades, they became politically radioactive. In 1987, just a year after the Chernobyl disaster, the Italian government held a referendum on nuclear power. And while citizens weren't actually asked whether they wanted to ban it outright, the results led to the final nuclear power station in Italy closing its doors in 1990. In 2009, the government at the time started looking into building new plants, but the Fukushima disaster in Japan was just around the corner. Another referendum in 2011, in the wake of Fukushima, put a stop to the government's plans. Today, nuclear scientists say the public needs to be educated about this new generation of plants.
From the physical point of view, in principle, a fourth-generation reactor is not very different from previous reactors, because the type of nuclear reaction that takes place inside of them is exactly the same. The difference is in the technological solutions adopted. So rather than a different way of working, from the operational point of view, we talk about new, advanced, safer technological solutions.
While supporters of nuclear power say it could play a key part in decarbonising major economies, environmental groups say it produces huge amounts of toxic waste. While Italy's energy mix is still heavily reliant on natural gas, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's government has been laying the groundwork in Parliament for nuclear power to potentially be switched back on. But even the researchers themselves admit it could be a decade before the first new plant comes online. Giles Gibson in Rome, reporting for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian Railways on track to create a record. The world's highest steel arch rail bridge nears completion. No sign of respite from scorching heat in northern India. And timeless practice of oneness and harmony with yoga celebrations across the globe.
Bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, DC.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan in New Delhi for talks with India's leaders on bilateral relations besides regional and global issues. Ukraine summit strives for consensus, but way forward is uncertain after India and much of the global south do not support a joint communique. A daily pause in fighting to allow aid into Gaza triggers a spat between Israel's Prime Minister and the army, even as military operations continue in Rafah. And President Draupadi Murmu of India leads the nation in greeting people on the festival of Eid-ul-Adha. Let me get you some more news from India now. The country's Home Minister Amit Shah chaired a high-level meeting in New Delhi on this issue to review the security situation in Manipur. Senior officials from the national government, the state government, the army and other security forces are to attend the meeting. India's Home Minister Amit Shah, meanwhile, chaired a meeting on Sunday to review security and logistics arrangements for a pilgrim's journey to the Hindu shrine of Amarnath that's located in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, the minister instructed security agencies to be vigilant and ensure sufficient deployment of security personnel for the pilgrimage. He called for establishing a perfect inter-agency coordination for effective security arrangements, including a well-established standard operating response mechanism. The pilgrimage to the cave shrine of Amarnath would commence on the 29th of June. Jammu and Kashmir has made arrangements for a smooth conduct of the pilgrimage. India's Minister of Road Transport and Highways, Nitin Gadkari, will hold a high-level meeting at Srinagar in Jammu and Kashmir to review the progress of infrastructure projects. It includes the Amarnath pilgrimage and the Jammu-Srinagar National Highway. The annual pilgrimage to the Hindu shrine commences on the 29th of this month. Numerous national highways, tunnels, roads and other critical projects are being developed in the Union Territory, which holds significant importance for both Jammu and Kashmir and the nation alike. Additionally, various strategic and developmental projects, including the Zojila Tunnel, are under construction in the Union Territory of Ladakh. The Zojila Tunnel will ensure year-round road connectivity between Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir and the rest of the country as well, overcoming the current seasonal closure of the Srinagar-Leh National Highway because of winter snowfall. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Uttar Pradesh and Bihar on the 18th and 19th of June. On the 18th of June, the Prime Minister will participate in the PM Kisan Samman Sammelan in the holy city of Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh. He will also witness Ganga Aarti at Dashashwamedh Ghat. He will perform puja and darshan at Kashi Vishwanath Temple as well. On the 19th of June, he will visit the ruins of Nalanda in Bihar. He will also inaugurate the campus of Nalanda University in Rajgir. He will also address the gathering on the occasion. And in news just coming in, 4 left-wing extremists were killed after an encounter broke out between the security forces and the extremists in Jharkhand's West Singhbhum district. A large cache of arms and ammunition were recovered from the site of the encounter. In other news, crossing the world's highest steel arch rail bridge over the Chenab River, India's Railway Ministry has successfully conducted an electric engine trial from Sangaldan to Riyasi in Jammu and Kashmir. The 46-kilometer stretch would be inspected over 2 days as the ministry gets closer to its ambitious project. The first train between Sangaldan and Riyasi is probably going to operate on the 30th of June after a successful trial of an electric engine on this route. And now to all the updates on the 18th edition of Mumbai International Film Festival. Day 3 of the Mumbai International Film Festival will see many engaging activities, including masterclass on relevant issues. A session called Unlocking the Force, using documentary films to promote social transformation, will be held, which delves into the potential of documentaries to act as a spark for social transformation. From the Shadows from the National Documentary Competition section, Art from the International Documentary Competition section, Wild Summon and Flowering Man are few of the films that will be screened on Day 3. And joining me from Mumbai is my colleague Shyama Mishra. Shyama, Doc Bazaar has been organized for the very first time. How can documentary and short filmmakers benefit from this initiative?
Ramesh, for starters, we understand that this film bazaar, this concept has been very relevant at International Film Festival of India, which is in Goa, which is held at Goa every year. And this time at MIF, this is the first time we are organizing Doc Bazaar. The Doc Bazaar name itself suggests that people who are making the film and people who can buy the film or help in distribution can come together and talk all about business. So it is divided, the Doc Bazaar is divided into 3 parts. First is, where the co-production can happen. The filmmakers, the new filmmakers and the people who are already professionals, they can come together and talk about all professionalism, how to go about funding, how to go about finding the funds, source and everything. That can happen. Second part is the viewing room. The filmmakers whose documentary and short films or animated movies are already complete in a closed door setting, they can come and show those movies to a selected registered audience, and those people they are all sometimes the ones who are dealing in the distribution and the money part. They can come together and talk about how to go about releasing this movie or releasing their film or releasing the project. The third part is work in progress, where rough cut stage movies, those people, those filmmakers can come and show it to the experts, the mentors who are present over here at MIF, and then they can get an expert advice on how to go about filming the movie, completing the rest of the movie, and about how to take it ahead to the global to the audiences, whoever is suitable for that. So this is the way all the stages will be covered, and the filmmakers of documentary short films are really finding it very accessible because a lot of professionals are coming over here, and they can just bump into each other and talk about how to go about releasing their documentaries, how to go about filming new documentaries and completing the ones that are already in stage.
Also, Shama, talk to us about what's in store for film lovers on day 3.
You've already mentioned about the films that are going to be screened today, and this will be screened in various competitions, so national competition documentary, international competition documentary. These are already there. There's something called mosaics, and in that you must have seen recently Inside Out movie, an animation movie, was recently released in India and globally. That will be screened over here, so people are really excited to catch that movie. It will be screened in the evening. Apart from that, there will be Slovenian, Iranian movies that will be screened, and we also know that there will be several panel discussions, where one panel discussion you've already mentioned, how the documentaries can help in social impact, and there'll be also one session where women filmmakers will come together and talk about unveiling her story. So how the women are portrayed, or the stories of women are portrayed in documentaries, they would be talking about that. Then there's one film, The Mercury, which deals about, one man saving the seabirds in an hostile environment. So that movie, the DOP, Lloyd Ross, he will be coming and taking an in-session class wherein he'll be explaining how difficult it was and what were the challenges in filming such movies, because usually we know for the fact that documentaries are something which is already portrays about the story which has already happened or it is happening, and sometimes it is really shot in a hostile environment. So challenges all about that and how to go about it, he'll be talking about that, and various other invaluable sessions would be held throughout the day where cinephiles, filmmakers, budding filmmakers can catch a glimpse of that and also catch glimpses of the screenings of various movies happening throughout 5 locations. So we are talking about Mumbai, Pune, Delhi, Kolkata and Chennai. Ramesh.
Shama, thank you. Appreciate it. Shama Mishra there in Mumbai. All right, moving to all the updates now on the International Day of Yoga, which will be celebrated on the 21st of June. In 3 days from now, the world will celebrate the 10th International Day of Yoga, celebrating a timeless practice that celebrates oneness and harmony. India's Prime Minister Modi shared a video on his X handle that offers guidance of Bhadrasana and its benefits. Take a look.
Bhadrasana. Bhadrasana is also known as the auspicious pose in English. This asana helps to make both your body and mind firm. To do Bhadrasana, sit down erect on the floor with your legs stretched out in front of you. Keep your hands beside the hips and palms resting on the floor. Be careful that the weight of your body is not fully on your hands. This pose is called Dandasana. From this posture of Dandasana, slowly release your breath while joining the soles of your feet together. Now, lock your hands with the toes of your feet and slowly bring the heels of your feet as close to your perineum region as possible. In doing so, if your thighs are not touching the ground, then you can support them by keeping a pillow underneath them. Bhadrasana is Viramasana, the state of sitting in one position for a long time. Close your eyes in this position and breathe in and out normally. Bhadrasana keeps the body firm and the mind steady. It strengthens the bones of the knees and hip joints and also reduces pain in the knees. It also helps to remove any kind of stress in the stomach. It also provides relief during the monthly menstrual cycles in women and other problems. It is also beneficial for pregnant women. People suffering from acute arthritis and sciatica should refrain from doing this asana. Keep sitting still in this position for some time. Open your eyes. While slowly taking your breath in, stretch your legs to the front. Stay relaxed in the Dandasana pose for some time. Bhadrasana affects the innermost organs of your body and makes your entire body healthy.
A yoga session was organized at the Indian Coast Guard Air Station in Daman. People were seen performing different yoga asanas or postures across the runway. The Indian Coast Guard said that the gathering promoted yoga and meditation, aiming to foster a healthier lifestyle. Eid-ul-Adha, the festival of sacrifice, is being celebrated across India on Monday with immense joy and enthusiasm. Muslims gathered in mosques to offer prayers. It commemorates the act of a father, Prophet Abraham, obeying the diktat of God, who tests his devotion by asking him to sacrifice that which is dearest to him. This Eid also marks the culmination of the rites of Hajj, one of the pillars of Islam, which involves a visit to Mecca and reenacting the events carried out by Prophet Abraham. It marks the end of the Islamic calendar and the beginning of a new year. And India's President Draupadi Murmu greeted fellow citizens on the eve of Eid-ul-Adha. In a message, the President extended her greetings and best wishes to fellow citizens and Indians abroad, especially Muslim brothers and sisters. The President said, and I quote, "On this occasion, let us take a pledge to work together for the development and welfare of our nation," unquote. And Prime Minister Modi also extended his greetings to people on the occasion of Eid-ul-Adha. Sharing his greetings on X, he wrote, and I quote, "Greetings on Eid-ul-Adha. May this special occasion further cement the bonds of harmony and togetherness in our society. May everyone be happy and healthy," unquote. And now to a weather update from India. The country's meteorological department has issued heat wave to severe heat wave warnings for the entire northern region. Heat wave to severe heat wave warnings were issued for most parts of Uttar Pradesh till the 18th of June. Meanwhile, heat wave conditions were very likely in Punjab, Haryana and Delhi till Monday and decrease in intensity thereafter. Heat wave conditions are expected to continue in Jammu, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh till Monday and abate thereafter. The Met Department also predicted that the northeastern states along with West Bengal and Odisha will receive heavy to very heavy rainfall in the next 4 or 5 days. A wildfire burning northwest of the U.S. city of Los Angeles on Sunday forced the evacuation of more than 1,000 people from a popular outdoor recreation area and burned more than 12,000 acres. The fire, which started Saturday afternoon local time, is moving to the southeast towards Pyramid Lake. Some 1,200 people have been evacuated from the Hungry Valley recreation area, which has trails for motorcycles and off-road vehicles since the fire broke out. 2 structures have been destroyed so far. Efforts to contain the wildfire are being hampered by high temperatures, low humidity and strong winds forecast to continue through Sunday night local time. Water-dropping aircraft are working to halt forward the progress of the fire, while firefighters are constructing perimeter fire lines in an effort to get the blaze under control. France is planning to try to restrict children's access to social media. The country's president says that young people are at risk from harm online. Emmanuel Macron asked a commission of experts to examine the risks to children of spending too much time on screens and their recommendations for a new legislation. Ross Cullen reports from Paris.
From social media to online gaming and watching videos, screens now dominate a large part of our lives. But it's the impact on children's development that is worrying the French government. In a major speech last month, the French president said that the legal age for using social media should be no younger than 15.
And today, for several hours a day, we open the door to the jungle. And that same person could be a victim of cyberbullying or subject to pornographic material or pedocriminality. That's what the online space is, because it's not regulated and it is not moderated either.
In April, a survey by French public health authorities showed that 2-year-olds in France spend about an hour a day in front of a screen. For child psychiatrist Anne Sinikier, it's a problem that must be addressed.
These screens are a bit hypnotic for children. There is lots of light, movement, bright colors, lots of sound. I mean, just look at a child watching TV. You can call them 100 times, and they won't respond in any way because they are completely hypnotized.
In 2023, the government said it wanted to introduce prevention messages on computers, tablets and phones to advise consumers in a similar way to the warnings on tobacco products. And protecting young people from too much screen time has cross-party support. Earlier this year, the opposition Republican Party tabled a bill calling for a ban on screens in nurseries for children under 3. Some of the new laws could include no screens for the under 3s, smartphones only being allowed for those under the age of 13, and a recommendation not to use Instagram or TikTok if you're under the age of 18. Ross Cullen in Paris, reporting for DD India.
And in news just coming in, a passenger train was hit by a goods train in the Darjeeling district of India's eastern state of West Bengal. The Kanchenjunga Express, which links the northeastern states of Assam and Tripura with West Bengal, was hit by a goods train. According to reports, the container train overshooted a signal and hit the rear portion of the Kanchenjunga train. The NDRF, the divisional team, and 15 ambulances have reached the spot. Action on a war-footing has been initiated. India's Minister of Railways, Ashwini Vaishnav, expressed shock over the incident. Taking to X, he said, rescue operations are going on a war footing and rescue forces are working in close coordination. And now to all the news from the world of sport. Indian women's cricket team secured a thumping 78-run victory over South Africa in its first ODI game in Bengaluru on Sunday. Smriti Mandhana's outstanding century and a clinical bowling performance led by Asha Shobhana played a crucial role as they went 1-0 up against South Africa in the first of 3 ODIs. Mandhana registered a brilliant century to end her ODI 100 bout, recording a 6th century and the first in last 2 years, and eventually setting a target of 297 runs. Mandhana also surpassed the 7,000-run milestone in international cricket. In the T20 World Cup, Bangladesh beat Nepal by 21 runs on Sunday in Kingstown to seal the final spot in the Super 8 phase. The win put Bangladesh in Group 1 of the Super 8s with India, Australia and Afghanistan. Nepal restricted Bangladesh to 106 after winning the toss and fielding first, but were bowled out for 85 with 4 balls to spare. In Euro 2024, Jude Bellingham struck in the first half to give England a 1-0 win over Serbia in the opener on Sunday. England is the runner-up in the 2020 edition and is seeking to finally win a trophy befitting its vast array of attacking talent. After scoring with a header against Serbia, giving the Three Lions a 1-0 lead, Jude Bellingham has now scored England's opening goal of the tournament at the 2022 World Cup and the Euro 2024. England is still a side in transition without stalwarts such as Harry Maguire, who is injured, and midfielder Jordan Henderson, who was left out of the Euros, and with several inexperienced players in the squad. And England fans celebrated their win over Serbia in their first game with tens of thousands of supporters roaring them on. Gareth Southgate's Three Lions side made a confident start in this tournament.
Alexander-Arnold strikes the wall. Vlahovic.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Up. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download it. And let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Up.